if this fails, I'm done for forever. No, you just keep going. You just go until you don't quit. Welcome to another episode of The Final Percent Podcast. I am in the car, and I'm even driving right now, and I'm filming, but I'm not going very far, so don't get mad. I'm being safe. I'm in a parking lot. I'm just going to go over and grab some food. But in the interest of no excuses, I've got to get this podcast done. The podcast is a continuation of what I talked about yesterday in the Facebook group. And if you're not in the Facebook group, it's the Final Percent Network. And go be a part of our wonderful community. But I talked about the difference between a conclusion and a decision. A lot of people draw conclusions on things, and if you think about it, conclusions are things that will end things. So my conclusion is we're done here. This is who you are. This is finite. This is the end. This is how it is. This is reality. The problem is what we actually need to be doing is making decisions. And I think that people need to understand that decisions and conclusions are actually two very different things. Decision, to decide, means to cut off from some direction. So if we decide to go in a direction, right or left, and we choose left, that means we cut off the right direction. So as you're going through life and you're making these decisions, they are going to lead you to conclusions. So decisions, in a lot of ways, decisions start things, and conclusions are the things that, and I have concluded that you are a good person. I have concluded that you are a bad person. And then you just let that be the identity, which we do that too fast. We do things through our own lens in such a degree that I'm going through this book for I think the third time now. The Mountain Is You. And she talks about what's called the spotlight syndrome. I think this is fantastic because I think everyone's going through this. Have you ever had a discussion with somebody and you say, you talk as if? And what I mean by this is you've posted something on Instagram, posted something on Facebook, and then you talk as if they watched your story. They looked at your post. They read your blog. They read your whatever it is. And then in the middle of you talking, they go, hey, just really quick, what are you talking about? Well, you came to the conclusion that they watch everything that you do, when most of the time it's just not true. And so we walk and talk as if everyone has the spotlight on us, where we live our own life, and that's okay to have the spotlight on you because you are in control of you, but everyone else has the spotlight on them. So if we can understand this spotlight syndrome and when and how and why we're going through it, we're going to be able to change our actions to be a little bit more understanding, to not draw conclusions so fast, because we draw conclusions so quickly that it wrecks relationships, that it wrecks opportunities, that it wrecks growth. And, it just goes back to the idea of the final percent. The final percent talks about, what if you give everything? What if you give 100%? And I think that is an interesting concept, because if you give 100% to your health, you believe 100%, you know 100%, you love 100%, you contribute 100%. What happens if we do that in our community? So you look at these contribution, the contributors of a community, and this is why the biggest thing that you can do is support people and look at contribution. And contribution is not always monetary. More often than not, it is very much a sense of presence, a sense of focus, a sense of showing up. going back to say yes and then stay yes. A lot of people say yes and then they're still looking for some sort of validation. So they start drawing all of these conclusions that, again, due to the spotlight scenario, they are not real. They are not actually happening. But if we start drawing conclusions that you need more data points. So one of the things, I used to draw conclusions all the time. Until one time I just said, I need more data. So I'm not gonna make a decision on this. I'm not gonna draw a conclusion on this until I get more information. Because I'm going to draw a conclusion based on my only available information. And going back to the James Webb Telescope, I talked about this in our Facebook Live, which, again, join our Facebook group. I think it's a fantastic community. But the James Webb Telescope had 344 single point failures. This means that if any one of these things goes wrong, they are going to have to scrap the mission. Now, also, to put this into perspective, there was over 10,000 people that worked on this telescope. Now, also, to put this into perspective, it took 24 years from inception to launch. I think the single biggest thing that is ruining human potential and humanity is that took 10,000 people. They don't want to get into a community. They don't want to debate. They don't want to follow. Now, just to be clear, you're not going to be a good leader if you are not a good follower. If you don't know how to follow, you are not going to be a good leader. If it always has to be about you, spotlight syndrome, you are going to fail. It's just the way it is. Single point failures, 344. To put this into perspective, I can't remember the exact number, but I think the Apollo mission had like 25. 344, 25. Oh my goodness. And then 24 years. We're worried about our New Year's resolution, and we can't even string 52 weeks together. We can't even string 4 weeks together. We trick ourselves into staying in momentum because we don't have goals big enough that we're able to see clear dominoes. And that's the biggest thing, is if you want to create a coaching company, you are going to have to go coach your butt off. And for years, you're probably going to have to do it for free. You're going to have to lose money. You're going to have to go pay the money to be in the seminars, to be around the people. It just is what it is. If you want to be in the, aerospace industry, if you want to be in the restaurant industry, you have to be around the people that are doing those things. You have to be where your clients are, where your colleagues are, where the industry professionals are. You have to take massive action. But you try something for a year and then it doesn't work out how you thought it would. How? How is the tyranny of the mind? Tyranny means oppressive government. So it doesn't work out how you thought it would. So you draw all these conclusions, you come to these decisions, and then you operate out of a sense of doubt, which changes your energy, changes your action, changes your belief, and then you wonder why you fail. You have to be able to stay in momentum. You have to be able to be disciplined. That's why I loved this James Webb Telescope thing, because it was 24 years. I mean, Salo and Owen weren't even born yet. 24 years of hard work in a single direction with 10,000 people. And then when they finally launched, $10 billion later, they had 344 points, single point failures, which means if any of these fail, the entire mission is a bust. 24 years down the drain. 10,000 people's lives, basically wasted. Money wasted. Hopes and dreams shattered. Most people, you're operating, and you need to listen to me when I say this, you don't have any single point failures. If this fails, I'm done for forever. No, you just keep going. You just go until you don't quit. You're not in space with no one, with nothing around you, hoping that your code works, that the machine works, that the engine fires. You're not worried about that. So it begs the question of this idea of perspective. Now, here's another thing that happened. The first picture of the James Webb Telescope, and go look up this picture. The first picture is I think they said something, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I want to say it was like 7,000 galaxies that that they saw. 7,000 galaxies that are bigger than the Milky Way galaxy, which we reside in. Here's where everything gets crazy. They said that, to put this into perspective, the field of view, the scope that we were looking at is if we held up a grain of sand and we held it up to the sky. That's our field of view, that we were able to see 7,000 other galaxies. Boy, that's a perspective shift. So here's the thing. You have to understand your field of view. When you're a sniper and you see something kind of like what I just said, the tiny grain of sand, that's your field of view that telescope was looking at in the sky, a tiny grain of sand, and there were 7,000 galaxies. If you move over any direction, up, down, left, right, horizontal, vertical, all these different things, you're going to see 7,000 new galaxies. That's the field of view. So here's the thing. Are you a sniper? So you're so tunneled on what you think is true. You're so tunneled on what you think you should be. You're so tunneled when what you need to do is take your eye off of your scope and look around and realize you're in this wonderful thing called life. Realize that there's so many things that matter more than money. There's so many, like, what is the difference that you're making? For you first. Are you able to make a difference in your own life? Because if you can't make a difference in your own life, you're probably not going to make a difference for someone else's life. So ask yourself, how is my life different at the end of this year, 2023, than it was at the beginning? And if you can't write down very many things that you're proud of, we should probably adjust a few things in 2024. But you're going to need community. You're going to need a goal so big that it actually scares you. Not scares you because it's just different, but scares you because it's so massive. Most people confuse the words difficult and different. Like, for instance, most of the time I go and I do something for the first time, I'm not very good at it. But I've trained myself to tell myself, look, this is not difficult, it's just different. I'm going to get good at this. That's different than having a giant goal to where you're like, how in the world am I ever going to accomplish this? Well, you're going to need time, you're going to need support, and you're going to need discipline. For anything to change, those three things need to be present: time, support, and discipline. You buy the support, but you don't give it the time that it needs. You give it the time, but you don't buy the support. You buy the support and the time, but you're not disciplined. If you want something out of this life, if you need something out of this life, you're going to have to put in the work. You're going to have to believe. You're going to have to equip yourself. But you cannot wait for life to come to you. You have to go to it. If you're constantly trying to take a permanent vacation, if you're not putting in the work, if you're not going where your industry professionals are, if you're not practicing your craft, if you're not getting on stage, if you're not doing the webinars, creating the courses, if you're not going and understanding the new laws surrounding, like, there's one of my friends, he just launched a big affiliate program, and he had no idea what the Federal Trade Commission was. What? This is going to end badly. You have to equip yourself. But equip yourself with the right amount of knowledge for the right amount of time so that you can do the right amount of work. Otherwise, you're going to spin your wheels a lot more than you think you are because you're on holiday. And ask yourself, am I on holiday? Am I making excuses? That's why I love the phrase, look, you can become a success from a failure, but you can never become a success from excuses. So if you're blaming someone else, if you're blaming circumstance, if you're blaming government, you're wrong. There's a common denominator that's always been there through your entire life. There's a common denominator because you've had ups and downs in the government, ups and downs in the economy, ups and downs in your life. You're the common denominator. You need to stop being the variable. That's the thing that's happening. You are the variable. You. So gain some perspective, get some support, get some discipline, actually put in the time and give it the time that it's going to need. But don't be surprised if the time that is needed is longer than a year, longer than 2 years, longer than 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I want you to learn this word, until. Until. You are going to give it the time. You are going to keep buying the support. And you are going to keep the discipline, the effort behind the support and the time. Until it works. Your dreams matter. You matter. You are needed and necessary. And it is time for you to put in the freaking work. I love what Ed Milet says, and here I'm going to end here. He said, this is separation season. Right now, everyone goes into hibernation. Everyone goes quiet. Everyone goes dormant. I'm not saying don't spend time with your family, because I think you should. But those late nights, maybe some of the weekends, maybe some of the times when everyone else is sleeping, and maybe football's been on for, 4 or 5 days straight. Separate yourself. Write the book. Launch the podcast. Build the course. Reach out. Get on stage. Practice the speech. Whatever you've got to do. Now I'm talking from my industry. Your industry might be different. But this is separation season. It's time to separate. So when everyone comes out of hibernation, people are going, man, what have you been up to? Man, I've got dreams. I've got people that need me. I need me. My family needs me. Someone out there that I haven't met yet, because I made a decision in this separation season. I took a step towards them and they took a step towards me. And I'm going to be able to help that person and they're going to be able to help me, all because I made a decision to move. Decisions and conclusions are different things. I hope this helps. Love you guys so much. This has been another episode of the Final Percent Podcast.